So this is the first video we're doing on the R5. You might also notice kind of a bump in quality, but that is not why we're here. We are here to talk about the Insta360 ONE R versus the GoPro Hero 7 Black. And quite frankly, I've been using these for a few weeks now. I wanted to contrast them. I've had the GoPro Hero 7 Black since it came out. I pre-ordered it, didn't upgrade to the 8, didn't see a reason to. I also have the Osmo Pocket. Insta360 reached out. Now, I've been a big fan of their Insta360 ONE X. I've been using that for a while. Got 2 videos on that one. That was completely non-affiliated. Didn't know them. I'm very thankful they reached out because I think they're a very innovative company, but obviously got to call out, they did send this to me for this review. That being said, I'm gonna give you my honest feedback, and really this video is focused on if you want an action camera today, you're getting into action videography, whatever that is, you're going on a trip, what would I recommend for you to buy? 2 very different use cases. This one that I have specifically is the Twin Edition. That's gonna come with the GoPro, essentially action camera style, as well as the 360. When you want this type of a camera, the 360, just creativeness, the flow you get with that is so much better. Now, why get something like this over the One X, for example? Well, this is waterproof, so that's a great addition. It is gonna be a little bit bigger for sure. The other thing this does is swappable batteries, so you can get extra large batteries. This also has modularity. All right, so we've effectively got 3 audio modes that you can put on this device. Right now we're using the built-in mics. Not bad, not great. I can also use AirPods if you got AirPods. All right, so we just switched to the AirPod Pros now. Pretty much same conditions. We're just walking down the street right now. So what I want to know is the audio significantly better? Obviously in windy conditions, this could change a little bit, but it's going to come down to how the different mics adapt and react. So AirPods, and let's switch to now what should be the best quality. Nice and convenient if you do have them. And for a $10 adapter, you can hook up any type of 3.5 audio jack into here for recording as well. All right, so right now we're on the Rode Video Mic Go, and as you can see, that's attached to my chest. So the nice thing with this, it's a lav mic, it's wireless, so you could essentially put this action camera wherever you want. Now, that being said, because of the field of view, not something you're typically gonna do, you're probably gonna be pretty close, but the good news is you should be able to get really good audio quality out of this mode. So you do have a lot of options when it comes to recording audio. Yes, the GoPro does have a media adapter. I don't have it myself, but it's much larger, and quite frankly, I love the AirPod compatibility with this because I am fortunate to have AirPods. So the biggest reason I'm really recommending this is that 360 compatibility with this. It's just amazing to be able to see the creativity you can do. You don't miss anything. So think whether you're on your bike, whether you're running, whether I'm filming something like this, I can choose at any given time the exact framing I want. So simply from a framing perspective, we're gonna get a lot of creativity and you'll never miss a shot. But then also just as you're kind of going through your workflows, you can do Tiny Planet. You can do a lot of these fun little things which end up being a lot of fun in the end result. So now your video is not just a fixed frame the entire time. So that brings us into kind of the overall head-to-head. What do we compare against these two? And I'll kind of be rolling the footage as we're talking here. So let's start off with stabilization. So you might be wondering how I compared these. What I did was threw it into this guy, this contraption. So we had side-by-side options that allowed me to kind of run with this, attach this to my bike, do a lot of different scenarios where I knew we were getting the exact same amount of shake inside of here. Firmware will be updated on these tests. So is the stabilization going to be any different when we're at 60 frames per second? Let's turn it around and just do some running. So we're running right now, and now I'm just gonna do some kind of crazy wobbliness. This is a little unrealistic, but it's our 4K 60 test. They both do a great job. That's kind of regardless of which camera, whether it's the action camera or 360 you have on here. Quite frankly, with the 360, it kind of amazes me how good that footage is when it comes out stabilized, because you're moving it around, you're shaking it, and it just looks rock solid stable. So that being said, on here, there are gonna be 2 formats you're gonna have to deal with. If you wanna output to an MP4, so that way it goes right into your editing tool, you don't get the best stabilization. We will see some samples here of that, of the MP4 versus the regular output. As soon as you're in 360 mode or you want the better stabilization, you're gonna have to output this to a proprietary file. However, their desktop app is really easy to work with. Honestly, my workflow, I end up throwing it into that app. I just convert it to MP4, and then I'll do a lot of the 360 modulation right inside of Final Cut. I did mention that in my old video if you want to go check that out, but Final Cut, if you're a user of that, has a great job with editing 360 footage. You don't get some of the cool features that they do have in the app with this, so also be aware if you're using the Insta app for the One R, maybe target specific thing in your frame and it's gonna track it automatically for you. It also has some AI modes where it's actually gonna look at the recording, try to analyze it into specific clips that might be entertaining. So interface, I'd actually say is pretty similar between the two. I think in terms of menus and navigation, I'm personally finding the One R maybe a little bit easier in a sense of how do I want to go set something up. I can kind of guess exactly what menu I need to go into, while at the same time the GoPro here is going to have a bigger screen, which just makes it easier to use in that sense. That being said too, they both have the cases on right now though, and with the cases on, it's actually really hard to touch the back of the screen and do some of the swiping actions on the GoPro. They both have pros and cons. I don't know if there's a clear winner. We won't get too into detail with every little setting, but I do think you're going to have a balance between the two. Obviously, there's form factors which are very different between the two. You have a larger screen on the one, but at the same time on the One R, you can flip the screen around. So you can have it facing behind you, in front of you, very easy to use. In terms of just the overall usability of the different hardware, I do think there's just a distinct advantage to GoPro because they have a bigger screen on the back. However, you can flip this around potentially. So depending on how you want to actually look at this screen, if you're using the action camera mode, you can have it face yourself, or you can have it face behind so you're recording forward. This is only going to face forward so you can't see yourself if you are trying to record. You can pick your framing right on the screen here as well. There were some swipe things I did not like on here. So if I'm swiping to choose like a shutter speed or an ISO or things like that, I always seem to overjudge it. I would swipe and it would go one too far. So that was a little annoying, but I've had similar issues on the GoPro, and I've actually had a lot of issues with this. Just basic things, bumping the screen a lot of times, it'll do weird things, take a while to respond. And then the biggest gripe I have with this is turning this on and off. I have no clue why, but I can't tell you how many times I turn this camera off and it just turns back on, doesn't shut off properly. The battery's dead the next time I go to use it. Just some weirdness, and I've been easily able to reproduce that. Hardware itself is gonna be pretty straightforward between the two. It's modular, like I mentioned. So the pieces are cheap. The audio adapter, for example, it's waterproof, both rugged. I do think in terms of durability, probably the GoPro is gonna have a little bit of edge if you were to smack it on things. Just working with 360 cameras, you can tell these things are gonna break potentially if you drop them or they take a hard hit. However, they actually have a pretty nice cover here. This cover is gonna work whether you have this on or they actually have the external case. So when you put this on, that cover can go over top of this. I can tell you personally, don't listen to this Insta. I was using the One X so many times and I would just throw it in my bag without any cover on that. And it was basically these lenses exposed. I was probably fortunate, but I never had any dings, scratches, anything. So they are pretty rough, but I do feel like, you do need to be a little bit more careful when you're handling something like this. In terms of chaptering, that's another great thing. If you hate chaptering, I know there's an argument maybe around if you drop it, if the card goes corrupt, you can at least save a few chapters, but that can also be a nightmare when you're editing. This does not have chaptering. So overall, if you were on the market today for an action camera, what would I recommend? It's gonna be the One R because of modularity, ease of use, flexibility in terms of the hardware design itself. I would go with a 360 camera though. I honestly wouldn't waste time with the action camera that comes with this on the Twin Edition. I would potentially consider the Leica. I haven't used that myself, but that combo to me makes a lot more sense. The Leica, because it's a bigger sensor, you're gonna let in more light, a lot more light than something like a GoPro. Therefore, that makes a lot of sense to me. But in general, I think I could get by with either just this as the 360 camera, which is now waterproof and I love. You can take it paddleboarding, you can take it fishing, you can do a lot more with it. Even though the One X was a great camera, I'm just real excited for that waterproof ability and the swappable batteries. I'd say if you can only afford a little bit, start off with the 360 camera. The last great thing to know is Insta has an upgrade program. So if you got any old GoPro, whether it works or not, you can trade it into them and they will give you credit towards one of these brand new cameras. So we got links below. Let me know any questions in the comments section. As always, guys, thanks for joining. It's good to be back here. We're on new equipment. Curious how the image looks. Do you like this better, worse? I think I'm switching from Sony. R5 review here to come, so stay tuned to the channel. I'll see you guys next time.